we're ready to go. All sorted?
Yeah.
Our camera guys are good?
Yeah.
Great. Hey, well, firstly, good morning, everybody. It's great to be back here. Good afternoon, actually. It is afternoon. Good to be here this afternoon in Christchurch, as always. The home of the Crusaders. That fantastic win this season. Amazing. Brilliant. Love it. So it's awesome to be back here at home. Great to be here at this chip tech company. This is an amazing organisation, 2 generations now, and they do incredible advanced manufacturing in the tech space and sell most of their products overseas. And that's exactly the kind of thing that we want to see a lot more of, and that's exactly why we've invested in things like Investment Boost, to see that companies like this that can make more further investments in capital and plant and equipment, it's an incentive for them to be able to do so that they can actually sell more products, obviously bring back more money back home to New Zealand, and obviously put that into the back pockets of Kiwis. But with that, happy to take your questions for the day.
I'll go first, thanks Chris. So what's the latest information that you've had on the bad weather that's sort of across the country and the damage that's expected?
Yeah, look, I mean, Mark Mitchell and I have been in regular contact actually from the weekend on this, and Mark's keeping a very good watching brief on it because we've had a number of challenges where I was in Auckland this morning and overnight, and right down to Tasman, Marlborough and across the whole of the country. Our big advice to everybody right now is, can you just please tap into the local civil defence advice, make sure that you're following it and compliant with it. That's the best way to keep you safe. I was very pleased with the response on the weekend. We've obviously knew we had another weather front coming. We need to get through this and respond to it appropriately, and then we'll worry about the recovery and what's needed afterwards. But for right here, right now, as we go into the end of the week, we need everybody following local civil defence advice.
And will you be visiting any of the affected areas?
Personally, I probably won't. I've just given my schedule, but Mark has been excellent. He's often down at events before they actually happen. He's been down on the weekend with the local mayors on the west coast and also Marlborough, Tasman as well. And he will be the one that runs our point guard on it, which is great.
Cool. And what will the government be doing in response to the weather?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of phases. First and foremost, it's about the response, and as I said, I'm very happy, and it's driven by our local civil defence organisations up and down the country. That's why I want people to be plugged into what the advice they're giving, and then obviously once that passes, there's a full conversation about recovery and what's needed to support recovery in different regions. But it's hard to make the assessment about what's needed while we're still dealing with the weather events. So that's why we think about it very much in response, and then what we call recovery as 2 different phases. For right here, right now, we're in the response phase, and that requires everybody to actually follow that advice.
And my final question is, what do you think about introducing a rain radar for Nelson and Tasman? It's costing about $3.5 million, and there's not one at the moment.
Yeah, look, as we said earlier in the week, we're really open to looking at that business case. That's just a question, again, of us getting through the response. That'll be part of the recovery conversation that will happen after that. So both Mark and I have said we're very open to looking into that. It was raised by Mayor Nick Smith, as you know. But for right here, right now, we just need everybody focused on making sure everyone's safe.
Prime Minister, just also on the weather, there has been a great deal of confusion in Golden Bay about what people should do in an emergency with phone and internet out. The Telecommunications Forum has been telling people to still call 111 in the case it could get carried by another provider, but Civil Defence is saying get in touch with your neighbours or go to the local police or fire station because it won't work. Which is a better response there?
Well, I mean, there'll be places where it's out, and there'll be places where it's still available. In that case, use 111. In the case where it's not available, obviously follow the Civil Defence advice and get close with your neighbours and the people around you.
Given that people feel it's confusing information, are you concerned we haven't learned much from the likes of Cyclone Gabrielle in this circumstance?
No, I'm actually really impressed. I know what work has been going on around our emergency management across the country, and when I look at the events that we had, say, in Otago last year and how they were handled, when I look at things like the Port Hills fires here in Christchurch and how they've been improved upon and with very similar events years ago and how they're being managed today, actually I've been very impressed with the actual join-up that's happening across regional and local civil defence. There's always more to do, but that's the whole point, is that every time we have one of these issues or incidents, we actually do take stock, we do a full review, we actually understand what we can do to improve our operating processes, and that's why we'll do exactly the same at the end of this exercise as well.
And just in terms of the power and internet there, has the government sought an explanation for the situation there from Chorus?
Not at this point, not that I'm aware of. Again, Mark Mitchell is the right because he's our point man, emergency events that we're experiencing. He's been all over it this week. But our advice right now is to focus on the response and making sure that people are safe and following good civil defence advice.
And just one final thing on that situation, should we be retaining the telco's old copper network for these types of circumstances?
Well, again, those are decisions for the telecommunications companies to make and for Chorus to make, and we'll follow their advice in due course and we'll look at it. But I mean, we have, we look at the communications methods that we have up and down the country. We'll continue to look at that. Are they fit for purpose? Are they working? Are there alternatives that we need? Those are all the things that Mark has been working his way through as part of our emergency management plan and upgrades.
I understand the Australian government is rolling out more personal alarms like the ones ChipTech make here, particularly for elderly people. Is there a plan to roll that out more widely here?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's something that I've encouraged actually the ChipTech team to actually talk to our ministers, both Louise Upston and responsible for MSD, but also Simeon Brown on the healthcare front, because clearly this is amazing technology. Obviously, every time someone is helped, aided, anxiety is reduced, that's all good stuff. So, we'll make sure that they're plugged into the government and to the appropriate ministers and to continue those conversations.
So you would be open to a similar scheme as to what is...
No, I'm just saying we need to be able to, we've seen information out of obviously the UK and the experience of these devices there and what that's meaning for Scotland and for England. But again, all I'm just saying is, I want our ministers to be aware of the technology and if there's any opportunities to use it in a different way in order to improve the quality of our healthcare delivery and access, but also cost, then that's something that they should engage with the private company about.
And then a few questions from the gallery. David Seymour said he pushed to cut RNZ's funding because they didn't get the message. What is the message, and in your view, is that comment appropriate?
The reason was very straightforward. We expect all government agencies and Crown entities to be really, everyone's made savings across the system over the last couple of years, and that was no different here. RNZ had a massive increase in its budget over a number of years, and we just wanted it to make sure it was right sized, like we've asked every other agency and every other Crown entity to do as well.
So is that the message they didn't get?
The message very clearly is we had a budget. We've asked all our government agencies, it's a taxpayer-funded money. We want it spent really effectively and really well, and we asked our RNZ to make a saving. It's up to them as to how they deliver it. That's no different from the advice that we gave many other government agencies as well.
What's your response to the more than 8,000 people who have signed a petition calling for an investigation into David Seymour and his comments on academics and council staff that were criticising the regulatory standards bill? Yeah, look, I've had comment on that earlier in the week, and I've just said, look, I'm not as Prime Minister getting in the middle of refereeing a political debate. It's politics is robust in New Zealand, so we expect it to be robust. It's important that it is, and so I don't see any need for me to get in the middle of all of that. So that petition comes across your desk, you're not open to looking at it? Well, I look at all petitions that come. I get a lot of them. The government gets a lot of them. But I'm just saying to you, I'm Prime Minister of New Zealand. I've got a lot of important things to do. That ain't one of them. When will the government confirm changes to Family Boost? The latest data showed just 388 families were receiving the full benefit of that scheme, which is a pretty slim fraction of the 21,000 your government said would qualify. Yeah, we'll have more to say about that next week, and Nicola Willis will talk to that next week. Mental health workers say it's become increasingly difficult to have police join them on call-outs to visit distressed patients. Is it your expectation that health workers will still receive police support? Yes, our view is we've got a process in place, a 4-stage process, to make sure that we actually get New Zealanders that are suffering with mental health issues and episodes, that actually they get the right mental health support rather than just police doing the mental health work. And that's why we want mental health professionals going to those cases and those call-outs. Of course, police are available at all times to support, but we're being very clear. We want police focused on chasing down criminals, and people going through a mental health episode aren't criminals, and they need real support and real help. And that's why we want to work a different model to try and get mental health experts to those people when they desperately need those services. What about the safety of those mental health workers when they're in those situations? For example, where staff have heard from a mental health worker who was punched in the face by a patient after police were unable to join them for a home visit recently. Well, I can say, again, talk to the police, but we've got a really clear protocol in place as we move through the different 4 phases to make sure that we're getting the mental health support to the people that need it, that police will be present. And so there's a series of protocols that are needed about making sure police will be there if the call-out's needed. But what we want to change, and we need to change, is we don't want our police going to being the sole people that are going into mental health call-outs. As a result, we want the mental health professionals there as well. In regards to the Regulatory Standards Bill, is National 100% committed to supporting the Standards Bill in its current form?
or would you be open to changes being made?
Look, the intention of the bill is to make sure we pass better quality regulations and legislation that actually, we want to make sure that we're doing the best that we can with developing really high quality legislation as it comes through the Parliament. There's obviously the devil's in the detail with this bill. That's why it's going to a select committee process. That's where we expect it to get a really good work over in terms of actually understanding what other builds from the public and from experts and from others and from other political parties. And of course we digest it once it's gone through a select committee process.
And in your latest release that you just made this afternoon, would you consider working with opposition parties like Labour to establish a policy costings unit?
Again, we've had that conversation as a government and we've decided not to progress that.
Okay.
Last questions.
Yes, sorry.
You've dropped from about doing 40 actions a quarter to just 28 in this coming quarter. Are you giving yourself a bit of a breather?
I wouldn't interpret that. Each action's got a different set of workloads associated with it, so it wouldn't be the right way to look at it just on sheer numbers. There's some complexity to a lot of those actions that we've got on. They're big pieces of work. Ending an oil and gas ban, for example, was a pretty big piece of work, and so it's just making sure that we focus the public service. They know exactly what we're focused on in the next 3 months. We focus the ministers and the coalition government so they know exactly what's needed to be delivered in the next 3 months, all so that we can actually rebuild and grow the economy to lower the cost of living, make sure that we restore law and order, and obviously deliver better public services, particularly in health and education.
Prime Minister, New Zealand spent $32 million on being part of a satellite mission called Methane Sack. The satellite's now lost in space. Some of our leading space scientists say New Zealand ignored multiple red flags when it came to its investment. Can you reassure the public that you'll look at our decision-making processes here so that it doesn't happen again?
Well, let's be clear, this was a decision of the previous Labour government, not my government, and again, I'm aware of the issue. I haven't been briefed in detail about it. That's an issue for MB now to respond to, and I expect them to respond to it.
Judith Collins hasn't answered our questions. Have you spoken to her regarding this?
I haven't, but MB is the right place for that to be discussed, and that's I expect the MB guys to step forward and explain what's going on. But the bottom line is previous commitment from the previous government, and MB are the right people to answer that. Okay, thanks so much. All right, see you team.